Okay, let's just start with the big question. How is it possible that a romance novel written over 200 years ago still feels so fresh, so relevant, that it's a global phenomenon? What is the secret code that makes Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice absolutely timeless? Well, let's unpack it.
You've probably heard this line a million times, right? It's one of the most famous openings in all of literature. And it does its job perfectly, setting us up for what we think this story is all about. A witty comedy of manners, a classic love story. It feels familiar, kind of comfortable. But here's the thing. That line isn't the whole truth. It's actually the setup for something way more clever.
Because that right there, that's the real question driving this entire novel. The story isn't just about a rich guy wanting a wife, it's about the desperate, urgent need for a woman without money to find a husband. And this isn't just a preference, you know? For the Bennett sisters, this is straight up survival.
So if you really want to get what makes Pride and Prejudice tick, you have to look past the fancy ballrooms and the snappy dialogue and see the cold, hard economic reality that's staring these characters right in the face. This is the first and maybe the most important layer of the story, the absolutely ruthless marriage market of Regency England.
And the whole engine driving this crazy high-stakes market comes down to one little legal term: entail. You see, the Bennett family home, Longbourn, is entailed. What that means is, because there are no sons in the family, the second Mr. Bennett dies, the entire estate, the house, the land, all the income, goes to a distant male cousin. The 5 Bennett sisters and their mom, they're going to be left with pretty much nothing.
And if you look at the numbers, they tell a pretty brutal story. Mr. Bennett's income? It gives them a nice life, but it vanishes the moment he dies. Mrs. Bennett's entire fortune is just £4,000, which is nowhere near enough to support 5 daughters. And their only real asset, the estate itself, is legally promised to the totally ridiculous Mr. Collins. The reality is just inescapable. For these girls, marriage isn't a romantic choice, it's the only career path they've got.
And this is exactly why we have to give characters like Mrs. Bennett a second look. I know, we all see her as this silly, matchmaking-obsessed fool, but when you look at it through this economic lens, her frantic, non-stop push to get her daughters married is completely rational. She's not a buffoon, she's a mother staring down the very real possibility that her children could end up destitute.
And hey, this isn't just us looking back with 21st century eyes. For decades, Marxist and feminist critics have pointed this out. The novel is a powerful picture of a society where women were basically cut out of inheritance, leaving them completely dependent on men. They just weren't allowed to build their own economic security.
And if you need the perfect case study, Austen gives it to us with Elizabeth's best friend, Charlotte Lucas. Charlotte is smart, she's pragmatic, she sees the world for what it is. And so, when the absolutely insufferable Mr. Collins proposes, she says yes. Not for love, I mean, she's not kidding herself about him, but for a home, for security, for a future. It's a pure transaction, and the novel kind of forces you to ask, hey, can you really blame her?
Okay, so let's recap. The economic stakes are impossibly high, right? Your entire future is on the line with one choice of partner. So what's the most important skill you can possibly have? It's being able to accurately judge someone's character. And that brings us to the second layer of the novel, moving beyond those first impressions.
And you know what shows this shift perfectly? The title. Austen's original title was First Impressions. It's a good title, sure, but it's just about observation. The final title, Pride and Prejudice, whoa, that's about something way deeper. It's about moral and psychological judgment. It's a sign that this story isn't just about what you see, but how you interpret what you see.
Yeah, the critic Richard McKeon just nailed it. In this world, communication is basically a code. You can't just listen to what people say. You have to analyze their manners, their style, their tone. Is Wickham's charm for real, or is it just an act? Is Darcy's coldness just him being arrogant, or is there something else going on? Getting it wrong, like Elizabeth does at first, can have some seriously dangerous consequences.
All right, so we've got the money problems, and we've got the psychological code breaking. But there's a third, even deeper layer that makes this story so intellectually satisfying. It's more than just a romance. It's a full-on philosophical argument played out by its characters.
You see, when Elizabeth and Darcy first clash, it's not just, I don't like you. No, it's way bigger than that. It's a collision of their entire value systems. You've got her, representing spirited individuality and sharp wit, and then you've got him, representing established tradition and aristocratic pride. Their whole relationship is basically a debate. Which of these is more important for a good life?
And Elizabeth's whole journey in the book, it is that debate happening in real time.
She starts out with this firm prejudice, right? Fueled by Wickham's sob story. But then, new evidence starts trickling in. Darcy's letter drops a truth bomb. Visiting his estate gives her a whole new perspective. And finally, finding out what he secretly did to save her sister Lydia's reputation, well, that forces her to scrap everything she thought she knew and build a totally new worldview. So in the end, their happy ending isn't just some mushy, they fell in love moment. It is so earned. It's about the reconciliation of their two opposing philosophies. His pride gets humbled by her wit, and her prejudice gets corrected by his actual character. They don't just fall in love. They actually learn to see the world through each other's eyes.
Okay, so let's put all these pieces together. The reason this novel endures, the reason it's a total knockout, isn't because it's just a romance or just a social critique or just a philosophical text. It's because it's all three, woven together perfectly.
I mean, just think about what that ending accomplishes. On the economic level, boom, the marriages save the Bennett family from ruin. Socially, boom, it proves that marrying for love and respect is actually better for everyone. Personally, both Elizabeth and Darcy have grown into better, more self-aware people. And philosophically, those two competing worldviews, they found a middle ground. Every single thread is tied up in this deeply satisfying way.
And it's this incredibly powerful recipe that has given the novel a massive cultural footprint. I mean, from its anonymous publication way back in 1813 to soldiers in World War I finding comfort in its pages, right up to the iconic 1995 BBC series that everyone obsessed over and the 2005 movie that got a whole new generation hooked.
This is why you have critics like Walter Allen holding it up as a masterclass. He's basically saying, look, if you want to understand how a novel should be built, you study Jane Austen. It's not just a great story, it's a perfectly constructed machine where every single part, the plot, the characters, the themes, they all work together in perfect harmony.
So, what's the secret sauce? Why does Pride and Prejudice endure? Because it's operating on every level at once. It gives you the romance you crave, the sharp social commentary that makes you think, and the deep philosophical questions that really challenge you. It's a story that is as intellectually rewarding as it is emotionally satisfying.
Which leaves us with one last big question to chew on. Is the novel's perfect, happy ending a brilliant model for how to navigate the messy realities of money, society, and love? Or is its greatest power in giving us a flawless, romantic fantasy, a much-needed escape from all that? The answer, I think, is probably why we keep coming back to it, over and over again.